hello, salam, and welcome to Reimagine Halal in Asia Conference 2020. It's a joint initiative between Collabdeen, a community collaboration app and platform, and Have Halal Will Travel, a global travel and lifestyle platform for Muslims. Reimagine Halal in Asia is a deep dive into Muslim economy, where we hear from industry leaders, innovators, entrepreneurs across various sectors such as halal food, tourism, modest fashion, and more through a series of talks, panels, workshops, and networking sessions. Now, all inclusive platform, regardless of faith, to pursue the fast growing Muslim market and build a strong halal ecosystem in Asia, tapping to the growth of Muslim economy in 2020, 2021, and beyond. Why Asia? Given the Asia's incredible growth, diversity, and resilience in the wake of COVID-19, Asia is positioned to lead the world into the Muslim ecosystem. Reimagine Halal in Asia 2020 focuses on what 2021 and beyond may look like for this economy. Now, today we have somebody special from food marketing, and she's also a writer. Joel Chan is a veteran restaurant marketing guru who has spent the last decade in Europe, Middle East, and Asia, helping multiple F&B concepts launching as head of marketing for industry top dogs such as Santon, the F&B restaurant franchisee arm of Air Asia, Jones, the Grossier Holdings, and EBB and Flow Group. To date, she has managed more than 50 restaurants and about 20 brands across 10 countries. Immense experience. I'm sure there's so much to learn for all the audience here. So I'm sure Joel has seen both sides of the ends. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming Joel Chan on discussing the destination of the world news and trip advisor. Hi, Joel.
Hi, Fatih.
Hey, how are you doing today?
Introduction and kind words. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm good.
We are honored to have you here today. And straight away jump into, if you can give a quick brief background once again. I'm sure I've not done justice to your intro. A quick intro, and then we'll jump onto the topic.
Sure. So, as mentioned very profoundly and smoothly from your side, I've spent the last decade actually in F&B restaurant marketing. I've opened restaurants in the Middle East. I've opened up restaurants in Asia. And most recently, I helmed the opening for Air Asia's newest F&B product, which was Santan. It's a restaurant franchise that's mostly run through digital technology and data. And also before that, I was with the Ebb and Flow Group, which is very famous for their use of technology and cloud kitchen concepts in Singapore. So yes, since I've been back in Singapore because of the COVID, I've been running a couple of workshops focused on F&B marketing for the new normal for just, restaurants in Southeast Asia to kind of get up to speed. So that's what I'll be sharing a lot today with everybody here. And I hope that, everybody has something to take away from it.
Absolutely. This is going to be very, very interesting. So if we can straight away a deep dive into the topic of discussion today, share about, you talked about the digital technologies and the trends and the data. If you can just overall give us an insight about what's happening in this market and what's going to be what should be the watch out for those Muslim consumers in the space, somewhere on those lines would be very beneficial.
Okay, sure, definitely. I'll be touching a lot more on, I think, the use of technology and the changes in how consumers are behaving as a result of the pandemic. That I think both, our Muslim restaurants and the consumers can adopt, as well as the non-Muslims, especially in the F&B industry itself. Yeah, I'm just going to start and jump right into it. So the topic that I'll be presenting on will be about marketing for F&B businesses in the new normal. And I think the one thing that we really need to analyze why we need to have a change in a marketing strategy for restaurants is that, there are three key things that have happened. Is that the way people are searching and transacting is very, very different to when we had traditional brick and mortar restaurants. And also the type of products that are being consumed within the new normal environment is also different. And also third and lastly is that the standards of which we are consuming are also different. So I'm really just going to bounce this back to you and ask you, during the work from home, now that we're all at home, um, are you just like mostly on your phone? Are you just like mostly on your computer right now? You know what I'm trying to say?
Right, absolutely. We are on mobile devices, on computers, not
Exactly.
going out. Yeah.
Exactly. So we have to understand that, the way that people are searching has really, really changed. So much so that we're spending about 81% of our time, every people in Southeast Asia, Japan, and Korea, 81% of their time they're spent with the phone right next to them every waking hour. So we have to see that the dining behavior and how people are using what devices people are using to search for restaurants, how they're transacting, and the role of mobile in this customer journey has really evolved. People are not walking outside there anymore. People are not stumbling across restaurants anymore. The traditional mindset of restaurants having to have a storefront and the feel of service and hospitality has really been disrupted during the new normal. And hence, because of this change in consumerism and mindset, restaurants need to pivot their marketing strategy, right? And then secondly, we see the rise of different types of dining behaviors, such as bottled cocktails, ready-to-eat meals. Everything is packaged. There's a lot more DIY meal kits that people are also consuming. That is not just part of dine-in anymore. So I'll be touching on a lot of these different things. But what I want to highlight here is that the dining environment for restaurants has really, really changed. And hence, restaurants must also change themselves to be able to meet consumers on these new behaviors that they are adopting within the new normal. So I'm going to move on to the next one, which is to understand the penetration of mobile and social media that has happened within Southeast Asia, Japan, and Korea just during this pandemic period alone. So within June 2020, up to date, we have seen an average of about 72% of Facebook penetration in the ASEAN countries, China and South Korea. I definitely have missed out a couple of those ASEAN countries, but what we're seeing is a 72% average, looking at about 250 million Facebook users in June 2020. So that is a substantial number, and we're looking at about 40% of overall population within ASEAN, China, and South Korea. So understanding that shift in dining in social media usage is very important, because there's a direct spillover impact to how social media is being used in dining and in restaurant marketing during this pandemic period by itself. So one of the things that we need to see is looking at the behavior of, like I mentioned just now, 81% of people have their phones with them. I have it right next to me right now. I'm not sure how many of you guys have it right next to you. I have it right next to me. 81% of people have their phones next to them every hour. And that's pretty crazy, right? If we think about it. And 75% haven't decided where to dine, and 60% of those people use their phones to search and decide where they want to eat. So if we look at the 250 million people, we're looking at 60% of them actually not knowing and then going on Facebook and finding somewhere to eat. So 60% of 250 million, I'm gonna ballpark that about 140 million people are on their phones just finding somewhere to eat, and they're not going out anymore. So the magnitude of what has happened is that restaurants are competing on a very, very different ball game anymore. It's not about who has the best location anymore. It's really a very different marketing strategy that I don't think a lot of restaurants were ready for when the pandemic hit. Um, so that is why such a topic is so important to cover.
Yeah, I was just kind of echoing the sentiments, right? Earlier, it used to be who has the best restaurant in town. You kind of go and experience that. But now it's more of what the best app, who has the best app experience. You just go and engage with that and then do the deliveries. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. What really has happened during the pandemic is that we have removed that discovery, that offline discovery of, like, restaurants relying on how good their location is, restaurants relying on how beautiful the interior design is, restaurants relying on footfall. All of a sudden, that has not become a key unique selling point for them. So, a lot of these restaurants who used to have the prime marketing, USPs, where all they had to do was just open their doors, all of a sudden they have to do a lot more than that. They are all of a sudden removed from their best, that was a shield for them, and that has been removed, and they need to now compete in this sea of social media where they don't have all these things. Restaurants can't compete with interiors, can't compete with location, service, and hospitality. So it's a very different ball game for them in this new normal. They have to really, really focus on how do I really translate this experience offline into online. So that's what we need to look at. And one of the best places that they need to start is actually social media marketing, which seems so relevant and so obvious in our heads. But if you go and look at a lot of restaurants, especially in Southeast Asia, they're not on it, and they have a lot of difficulty adopting it because they don't know how to use it, or how the role of mobile has really, really changed. They think of social media marketing as, oh, I'm just going to put my menu on my Instagram feed. I'm going to put my menu and my photos on Facebook. But I'm going to cover how the role of social media has changed beyond that discovery. So, like I mentioned over here, social media marketing is the new normal, and customers are fulfilling the entire customer journey from discovery to purchase. So during the pandemic, Instagram and Facebook has very, very smartly introduced features where customers can now fulfill transactions and pay and order food and book on social media itself. So that is one thing that I think is very, very relevant that a lot of restaurants don't know, is that social media is now money. It's not just, something that you can close one eye and take a photo of your food and post on. It is so much more than that. And that the role of social media in restaurants has really taken it to the next level, where there's actually a monetary value, right? If not more important, to reach this sea of customers, there's now money tied to it as well. There's money being there, and there's money being lost when you're not there. So that whole customer journey of discovery to booking to your food being delivered, you don't have to leave your phone anymore. And I think a lot of restaurants don't recognize that. So covers how restaurants are actually, being trying to be part of that whole new journey with their consumers, so much so as to even taking it to the next level and employing gamification, engagement tactics, where you can play with your restaurants. There are now GIFs because a lot of consumers were working from home. So a lot of them were actually trying to engage with them in this way. Because, like I mentioned, how do you give consumers that experience or let them know about how you are without them coming to your restaurant? So this is one of those things. Like I mentioned, consumers can now purchase directly on social media. I'm not sure if you've ever purchased on social media, Fateh.
Not yet, not yet.
Yes. So all around Southeast Asia, and including Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Instagram has actually partnered up with a lot of these F&B technologies. And I'm not talking just about delivery aggregators. I'm talking about fulfillment logistics platforms as well, where people can book restaurant seats, order food directly from Instagram, and then you can actually link to these third-party platforms. So in Singapore, it's Deliveroo, GrabFood, Klook, and Chatfood. And on Instagram, you can just put an order food button and it goes viral because you can share. The shareability on social media is really what restaurants were not able to do before. And the fact that they are not keeping up to date and integrating different forms of transaction methods on their side, they're missing out on a lot, and they're not capitalizing on, hey, people can now pay me for social media, I can let it go viral. So this is something that restaurants need to understand, that they really need to pivot their marketing. Last but not least, I think I might be running out of a little bit of time, is that there has been a significant change in dining behavior and the types of products. So I'm sure, Fateh, you have definitely ordered delivery during this time of work from home and lockdown, right? Definitely. So it's no surprise at all. We're currently standing at about 4.1 million Singaporeans that are actually active on deliveries just within 2020 itself. So then, and do you want to take a wild guess, 25 to 34-year-olds in Singapore, what is that average spend on delivery?
No idea. Maybe like per order. Like I have
Per
no idea.
order. Average
Maybe
basket size.
two, three. Maybe a 20 to 30 average basket size.
Correct. So we're
Yeah.
looking at about $30 to $40 basket size of 25 to 34-year-olds. And just in Singapore, we're looking at a penetration of about 4.1 million Singaporeans. And that is more than, I would say, 50 to 60% of the overall population. So just within Singapore itself, you can imagine how delivery, which a couple of years ago was something quite foreign to us. You know, we go hawker center, we just walk out the door. In Southeast Asia, you just walk out, you've got food, you can buy $3 or $4. But now it is not the case because of the pandemic. And not only has delivery patterns and takeaway really superseded that of dine-in, because we have no choice, there has been a surge in packaged food, because a lot of the people who used to eat out and within 30 to 40 minutes, these people are now working from home, they're working longer hours, but they don't get more time to cook or prepare, right? And they can't be eating delivery every day. So we see a surge in DIY meal kits and ready-to-eat meals, and also more safety and hygienic packaging coming out. When you order food, they'll tell you the temperature, they'll give you proper packaging. We see a lot more one-time single plastic use within restaurants. So that's because consumers are generally a little bit more frightful about hygiene standards during the pandemic, which is rightfully so. And restaurants are meeting that. Some restaurants better than others, but definitely they are coming together and communicating, hey, we are sanitizing our places, we're sanitizing this, we're sanitizing that, right? Just to give you that confidence. So this is definitely still part of marketing, is that you making consumers feel safe, because now that is an additional barrier that previously you didn't have. So that is what we're seeing as well in the restaurant industry. The products are different, and there's this additional standard that you need to fulfill for customers to come in. Last but not least, I wanted to really present a framework for restaurants to understand the different ways that they can pivot their business for the new normal. And this is an NSOF matrix framework, which I found to be very, very useful in my own career and with all the restaurants that I work with. And currently, a lot of restaurants are existing, and when they're taking their existing products and they're marketing to existing markets. So they're going in there, and this looks in the sense of like delivery and takeaway. They're taking existing products, they're giving it to the same people. But there's so many different ways that they can actually diversify and pivot their products. There's product development strategy where they develop new products for existing markets. So people have different needs. So can we go into catering? Can we go into a meal subscription? Can we go into different products where people are dining differently, bottled food, bottled cocktails, and so forth? Like, can we package our chili? So this is what we see as product development strategy. And the product development strategy is a product that, when developed, doesn't cannibalize your existing main core product. So that is how restaurants must see it. And there's also a market development strategy where you go into different and new markets that are outside of just your casual diners, right? So I'll elaborate a little bit more with a case study example of Thai Airways in this slide. So Thai Airways, obviously being an airline, was really hardly hit during the pandemic. The one thing that we needed to get rid of was inventory. Otherwise, you're looking at millions and millions of inventory that would just add up to your cost. Thai Airways and Thai Catering went to the streets and sold dough fritters. They make more than 400,000 Singapore dollars a day just by
Wow.
partnering up with street vendors, and they sold their dough fritters. We can already see how they're very smart in diversifying their product into how can we do different things differently, right? They also did deliveries, and Thai Airways is definitely someone that I would look at as being very, very creative. Last but not least, bottom left, they took light vests and they made it into sustainable bags, and they used cabin crew as influencers and models for this campaign. So can
Nice.
you imagine a Thai Airways? What they have done is they've created a new product and they've gone into a new market. They decided to say, hey, we're going to do bags. We're going to go into fashion. And these sold very well because they jumped on that sustainable train, right? If you see at the bottom, it says, make Earth more livable. We're recycling. So
Mhm.
these are just creative ways that are reflective of the different strategies that I had presented in the previous slide on how a business can really look at different markets, different products, and diversification instead of just the same consumer and offering them the same thing. Is that when restaurants want to pivot, they don't know what they need a guided thinking on how to get there and how they can be more creative. So that was a framework, and this was an example that I really wanted to show restaurants that there's so many more opportunities that they can actually work with. And last but not least is to understand after you have your strategy in place, should you be targeting every single customer? And the answer is yes. However, you cannot be too greedy, and you should always focus on the profitability, segment size, and the attractiveness of each segment. And then you can position your resources and allocate them accordingly. So one thing during the pandemic is that your resources are so tight, money, people, so much so that when you have formulated this brilliant marketing strategy, you do need to prioritize them in order to really, really maximize your like ROI. So this was something that I also really wanted to highlight to all the restaurants and F&B businesses listening, is to have a framework and then look at them profitability, segment size, and attractiveness. In summary, I would boil it down to a very simple acronym of MOST, which is the market understanding, objective strategies and tactics. And I've put a very relevant example of a pandemic over here. So the market understanding was the pandemic, objectives was to drive revenue, the strategies using the framework, delivery, working with hotels to do meals for their guests or their quarantine guests, or even doing kitchen rental to the rise of home businesses. And lastly, on a tactical front, was to roll it out on the channels that were reaching all these ideal customers. And that's it. Thank you.
Amazing. This is beautiful. So I think from I'm very sure a lot of people have got a lot of good insights and an approach towards how we should go ahead from F&B marketing. Personally, I've enjoyed the session, Joel. Really very, very good insight. I have a couple of questions. We have
Sure.
about 5 minutes from now, and we'll kind of wrap it up in 5 minutes.
Sure.
My question to you now, this session being about halal in Asia. So
Yes.
I would like to understand what's going on from an halal food perspective, where you talked about Grab and Deliveroo and everyone coming and trying to get every customer, as you mentioned, right? Should you target every customer? The answer is yes. So when you said that, how are these brands and businesses trying to cater to these Muslim audience, not just in since you've got exposure to the Middle East and the market here in Southeast Asia. So if you can just run through an overview, what are the new things and strategies that's coming in the market? What should be the lookout for?
So I would say coming from the middle. Firstly, we need to understand that the Middle Eastern Muslims are the dining behavior is a little bit more different, I would say, also from the Southeast Asian Muslims. So I would like to touch a little bit more on a very similar, I think for Southeast Asia, from my own experience with some of the Muslim concepts and with the additional with the Singapore Muslim concept, Muslim F&B concepts, is that pandemic or post-pandemic, I think that one of the standards that Muslim entities need to know, Muslim consumers need to know, is there's an additional standard for them. That means Muslim owned or halal certified, right? So a lot of these are also removed because you're unable to go to, you know, your mamak next door and you cannot see the guy who is a Muslim man or Malay man anymore. So these Muslim businesses are suddenly partnering up with Deliveroo and stuff like that. And it's a very difficult thing to be like, how do you communicate online that you are Muslim owned or you are halal certified? A lot of businesses are not even halal certified because Muslim owned is already the pinnacle of being a halal certified. You don't need that anymore once you're Muslim owned. It's more trusty, right? So what happens when you've suddenly removed the face of your business that is the standard for why customers come to you? So that is one thing that a lot of Muslim F&B concepts need to then, you know, that is why having their own presence and social media is even more important. It is even more important for Muslim F&B concepts to have their own presence because they need to prove that either through, you know, fronting the founder, their own stories, or showcasing other Muslim customers in their, you can't even show Muslim customers in your restaurant, right? Because you can't even open the restaurant. So these are the things that I would say, you know, maybe using Muslim influencers. So I would say that that is something that Muslim businesses, F&B concepts have to really think about as well, right? If you think about non-Muslim concepts, they don't have to do that. They can just go walk. You don't need. But for Malay people, for Malays in Southeast Asia or Muslims, they like to see that somebody in there of their own kind living there for that kind of assurance, especially when it's not halal certified.
Very much. I completely agree on that. So I think bringing those Muslim influences, making it more, showcasing their brand values outside to the wider audience could really be a very positive change.
Muslim F&B concepts have a lot more to show. So in addition to the hygiene standard, they need to show you have that trust from that community. And that is why social media is even more important for them.
Sounds good. This is good. I think, Joel, this was very useful and interesting session. I'm sure a lot of people have more follow-up questions to you. Where do somebody could reach out? I know we can find out more about you at joelchan.com. Is there anything else you'd like to provide to the users?
So you can, I host virtual workshops. I write a lot about restaurant marketing, especially right now in the new normal. All the details on my website everybody can feel free to reach out to me. Most of my workshops are all free. It's really like a pro bono service right now to restaurants to really just help them at the moment, because I don't feel that there are a lot of resources online for it. So I really appreciate this platform, really allowing myself to share with other people what they can do better so that we can all just, get through this really difficult time. Yeah.
Amazing, Joel. I would be one of them who would be reaching out to you soon.
Oh,
why? Because at Halal, what we're building is a community collaboration platform for these Muslim consumers, and we're bringing an augmented way of showcasing brands, businesses, specifically the halal restaurants and the whole chain of food processing through one platform. I think that's an area we can start looking at how we can collaborate. Amazing, Joel. Thanks for your time today, and I'm very sure.
I really appreciate it. Thank you, Fateh.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.